Yo, what is going on, guys? Dr. Ethan Turner here with the Fantasy Headliners, and it's time for our Week 12 Injury Update show. We're going to do things a little bit differently this week. I'm going to be breaking up my injury update show into two parts. The first part is for the Thanksgiving games. We know there's 6 teams playing on Thanksgiving, so I wanted to take some time, give you guys a little snippet, a little baby episode of the injury update show because we have so many teams playing on Thursday night this week because it's Thanksgiving, y'all. It's one of my favorite holidays, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. As always, this show is brought to you by our boys over at Fantrax. Make sure you download the Fantrax app and let them know that the Fantasy Headliners sent you. But let's get into a special edition Week 12 Thanksgiving week injury update show. All right, guys, as always, we're going to start out with a moment of silence. Sadly, we do have a moment of silence this week, and it's Giants wide receiver Wan'Dale Robinson tore his ACL during what looked like a breakout performance for him last week. Really tough injury for a guy just starting to kind of find his own in the offense, really starting to become a target hog. Looked like he was finally putting it all together, tears his ACL, done for the year. Pour one out in the chat for Wan'Dale Robinson. We're also going to take a slight moment of silence, and then we're going to move on. Sadly, that's how things go in fantasy. We got to move on from these injuries, and we're going to look at our Week 11 accuracy recap. Every single week, I go through my hits and misses from the last week. Last week, not a good week for me. I'll be honest, I'm going to take an L here. Only 80% on my in-out calls last week, 87% on the year, but this is not what I have come to expect from myself. I want to be up in the 90s. I'm not happy with this, and just know I did have quite a few players that I missed that I expected them to play, and they didn't play. So we had Gus Edwards, Chase Young, Kyler Murray, Gerald Everett, and then we had a bunch of guys that I didn't think were going to play that ended up playing. Al-Quadin Muhammad, Davian Nixon, Marquand McCall, David Njoku, Deion Jackson, Andres Pete, Wan'Dale Robinson, DeMarcus Lawrence, and then finally Keenan Allen, the only one that I really felt like I was just dead wrong on. I did not expect him to come back. Played pretty well, did have a costly fumble that hurt the team ultimately, but those were quite a few misses. I'm not used to missing that often, and I am sorry for that. That is my bad. Also missed on Terry McLaurin. Thought he was going to smash against the Texans without Derek Stingley. Stingley missed the game, but McLaurin wasn't able to capitalize. Only finished as the wide receiver 41. And I did say to sit Ezekiel Elliott coming off the injury. He scored twice, finished as the RB8, but Tony Pollard finished as the RB1 overall. So big, huge week for the Dallas running backs. 2 touchdowns helping Zeke out. Was not crazy efficient, but if he's getting work on the goal line and the team's going to score 40 points, you probably should have started him. That's my bad. Didn't expect that out of him. Did have some hits, though. I told you guys to avoid Carolina's offense altogether. Only Terrence Marshall finished with over 7 points and half PPR scoring. Told you guys to sit David Njoku. He finished as the tight end 26 on the week. Not a good week for Njoku coming off that high ankle sprain. I warned you guys about A.J. Brown. Said that A.J. Brown wouldn't produce while he was hurt. He finished as the wide receiver at 48, only 6.5 half PPR points. I did hit on both my prize pick plays that I gave you guys last week. I had the Rams D over 2 sacks. That was easy money. They had 2 sacks in the first quarter, so when you know that they hit that over. And then Cortland Sutton without KJ Hamler, without Jerry Jeudy, over 60.5 receiving yards. Huge hit last week. If you put those 2 down in your prize picks bets, using the code Headliners, got a 100% match on your first $100. You maybe won some money there. You tripled your money there if you made those 2 exact bets, which I gave you guys for free last week. Told you guys to start Darius Slayton, finished as the wide receiver 22 on the week with 11.1 half PPR points. And then maybe my best call of the year. I hate that this is where we're at in the year, but I told you guys to start Matthew Wright and Cameron Dicker the kicker. Both those guys finished top 11 kickers on the week. Cameron Dicker has been a top 10 or 11 kicker every single week that he has started. And spoiler alert, Dustin Hopkins went on IR this week. So Cameron Dicker is now a locked-in starter rest of season. So make sure if you get the chance, pick up Dicker the kicker. All right, guys, let's get into the Thanksgiving slate. And up first, we got a great game with the Bills and the Lions, but I'm going to preface this week, specifically this update, with just knowing when I talk about practice reports this week, does not necessarily mean that these teams are actually practicing. Most of the practice reports for this slate of games, they have not practiced yet. Most of the teams are not actually practicing. They're just projecting, if they had a practice, what these guys would have been able to do or not do. So just take it with a grain of salt. Listen to what I'm saying about the injuries. Don't focus too much on if they're practicing or not. First up for the Bills, we got quarterback Josh Allen. He's the most important guy on the field for the Bills, dealing with that UCL sprain. Did not look like himself in week 11, but was practicing without a brace this week, so that's an improvement for him. We'll see if he plays without the brace. I'll be surprised if he doesn't have the brace on during an actual live game, but it is nice to see him practicing and throwing around a little bit without the brace on, but he's a start every week. Can't really sit Josh Allen. Doesn't matter what the week looks like, because Josh Allen, even though he had a down week last week, he could go off and be the quarterback one this week. You have to be starting him. The defense is still banged up for the Bills. We got linebacker Tremaine Edmonds and defensive end Greg Rousseau, both dealing with the injuries they had last week, a groin strain and high ankle sprain. Neither one of them is practicing. Doesn't look like they are going to play. Defensive end AJ Epinesa dealing with an ankle sprain of his own. He left the game on Sunday after just 6 defensive snaps. Does not look like he's going to play. And the big one for the Bills outside of Josh Allen is center Mitch Morse, dealing with ankle and elbow injuries. Morse was seen in a walking boot during the week, has been battling that elbow injury since the beginning of the year, basically. He sat in week 3, and the Bills gave up 4 sacks. So if he misses, that is a huge deal for this offensive line that relies entirely on Mitch Morse's ability to pick up defenses and where the pressure is coming from. Without him, they look like an absolute train wreck against the Dolphins in week 3. So not what you want to hear when your quarterback is hurting. Hoping Mitch Morse practices on Wednesday so that we can see if he is playing or not. Moving over to the Lions, running back DeAndre Swift, technically not listed with the ankle and shoulder injuries. He's been a full practice all week for the second week in a row, so don't really know if this is entirely injury related. Not right now. He's not playing well. I think he lost his mojo, if you know what I'm talking about. Jamal Williams has stolen this job from DeAndre Swift, and now I'm worried about the rest of the season if Swift is even going to be close to regaining that workload that we saw in the first 2 weeks. Do we see DeAndre Swift come out against a good Bills defense and blow him up? I don't think so. I think he's more of an RB3 this week versus an RB2. Wide receiver Josh Reynolds has missed 2 weeks with a back injury. He is back practicing in a limited capacity, so there's a chance he plays. I still think it's kind of a long shot on the short week, but we will see what happens with Josh Reynolds. The Lions' offensive line is hurting across the board. Starting guards Evan Brown and Jonah Jackson are not practicing yet this week with an ankle sprain and concussion, respectively. Don't expect those guys to play. Frank Ragnow dealing with that foot injury, so the offensive line, specifically the interior offensive line, is hurting for the Lions. Cornerback Jeff Okudah dealing with a concussion, has already been ruled out for the week, so they are down a cornerback already. And then defensive ends, Joshua Pascal dealing with a knee sprain and Charles Harris dealing with a groin strain. Both of those guys are expected to miss this week with their injuries. Both of these guys missed Sunday's game as well, so I'll be surprised if we see them. Don't expect it. All right, heading over to the Giants at the Cowboys. Giants moving one way, Cowboys moving another, but both teams have the same record. Giants tight end Daniel Bellinger dealing with an orbital socket fracture. He is not expected to return this week. Cornerback Adoree Jackson has a knee sprain. He's already been ruled out for the week as well. We already talked about Wan'Dale Robinson, but the biggest news for the Giants is the fact that their offensive line is absolutely crushed right now. Josh Ezeude, hard to say that name. I don't know if I even said it right. John Feliciano, Shane Lemieux, and Andrew Thomas all missing time from practice on Tuesday. So none of those guys practice on Tuesday. We only got 2 more days for these guys to get some practice time in. Could be down 4 starting linemen, though, because left tackle Evan Neal hasn't played in nearly a month. Is he going to come back on the short week? He's getting limited work in, but still, I still say that there's a chance that he does not play. So dealing with possibly 5 different offensive linemen hurting this week. The Giants' run game, I'm worried about. Daniel Jones' health, I'm worried about. Prize Picks picked up on the fact that I was giving everybody the free money with the defensive special team picks. I don't even think you can pick up a defensive special team in Prize Picks this week. If I could, though, I think the Cowboys' defensive line is going to absolutely feast against this Giants team that is absolutely beat up. Really rough spot for the Giants, who also lost their best wide receiver in Wan'Dale Robinson last week as well. On to the Cowboys. Running back Ezekiel Elliott dealing with the knee sprain. Should play this week, but has been limited in practice as he ramps back up from this knee injury. I still think they're going to use him in short yardage situations, but Tony Pollard is the guy to own week to week for the Cowboys. I think Zeke is a fine kind of RB2, could score some touchdowns, get you into that RB1 range, but I don't think he's at 100% yet. Linebacker Anthony Barr dealing with a hamstring strain. Barr is not expected to play this week, barring, you see what I did there? Barring a miraculous turnaround on Wednesday. Sorry for the terrible puns. It is Thanksgiving week. Please give me the benefit of the doubt on this, all right? Defensive ends, Terrell Basham, Dante Fowler, defensive tackle Jonathan Hankins, and cornerback Kelvin Joseph are all sick and not practicing, so it sounds like some illness is going through the Cowboys locker room. Keep an eye on that, see if anybody else gets sick on the Wednesday report. And then all pros DeMarcus Lawrence dealing with the foot injury, and then the linebacker Micah Parsons dealing with a knee sprain. They aren't practicing, but I do expect both of those guys to play. Moving on to the Patriots at the Vikings. Patriots offensive tackle Isaiah Wynn has a foot injury, started the week limited, but was downgraded to a DNP on Tuesday. We saw a similar pattern last week, and he ended up sitting, so it sounds like that's going to be the case again this week. And then center David Andrews dealing with a thigh injury that apparently was expected to keep him out the rest of the year. You know how the Patriots are, though. They like to play around with these injury reports. We can't trust them. And so it sounds like he is limited again in practice. We'll see what happens with limited, what that means. I still think it's a very long shot that he plays, and we'll see what that offensive line can do without these two guys in it. David Andrews, one of the best centers in the game, so we'll see what happens without him, which I don't expect him to play, so they're definitely going to find a replacement for him. The Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson dealing with that toe injury that he picked up last week, played on Sunday, but was surprisingly a complete non-factor in the drubbing that the Vikings went through last week. Only 3 catches for 33 yards. He's back practicing in full, but now he plays the 4th best defense against wide receiver ones in the league. He's got a really tough matchup. I think that the Patriots are going to work really hard to take away Justin Jefferson, and so maybe this is more of a Dalvin Cook game, but I just don't think that you can sit Justin Jefferson and feel good about it, and it's fun to root for Justin Jefferson on Thanksgiving. Left tackle Christian Darrisaw, though, is out for the week with a concussion, his 2nd concussion in 2 weeks. Darrisaw already ruled out, like I said, but a huge loss for the Vikings run and pass game, one of the best left tackles in the game. So that's all we got for the Thursday Thanksgiving games. I hope you guys enjoyed this kind of little sneak peek update. I don't normally do Thursday games, so it's fun to look at these games specifically, and I hope you guys enjoy your Thanksgiving watching these games. You know, some of the best games of the week are actually on Thanksgiving, so make sure after you spend some time with your families that you watch a little bit of football. So that's it, guys. That's all I got for the Week 12 Thanksgiving edition of the Injury Update Show. Make sure you've got the notifications turned on to the Fantasy Headliners. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the like button on this video so you guys don't miss any injury updates. We got another one coming on Friday. Make sure you head over to our friends over at Fantrax, download the app, use the code Headliners, let them know that we sent you, and then go over to Prize Picks. Use the code Headliners again for a 100% match on your first $100 deposit. And Prize Picks is running a special free bet, well, basically free. If Justin Jefferson gets over 1 yard of receiving, you win that portion of the bet. You only have to make one other guess, and you can triple your money over at Prize Picks. And we know Black Friday is right around the corner. Head on over to our boys at Manscaped. Use the code Headliners, 20% off and free shipping. Or even if you just use their Black Friday deals, make sure that you let them know that the Headliner sent you. But that's all I got for you guys this week. The Thanksgiving show is in the books. I hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving. Let me know in the comments what your favorite part of Thanksgiving dinner is. If you ask me, it's the mashed potatoes and gravy. That's as good as it's going to get. I could eat so many mashed potatoes and gravy for Thanksgiving, but I hope you guys have a great meal, have a great day of football, and I will see you guys on Friday. The Doc is out.